Hi there, Devo. Welcome to another Takeover Tuesday. I hope that you are well wherever you are. This week we're continuing the conversation about racism, both in the UK and abroad, kind of responding to the murder of George Floyd and the protest and response to that. And on Friday we had part one of this conversation where Abby shared really eloquently about her own experiences of racism and some really helpful thoughts and reflections on the current situation and how we move forward. And since Abby spoke, actually here in Bristol we have toppled the statue of Edward Colston, a man who was really involved in building the city but actually had his finances rooted in the slave trade, was involved in the transportation of over 80,000 people, I believe. And so this week we have Colse being interviewed by Joe, and he's going to share some thoughts and reflections on what has happened and how we move forward with that.
So I'm joined here with Colse for another conversation. Hey Colse,
Hey,
why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, whether you're part of Woody's, and why you're interested in the issue of racial justice, maybe.
cool. Thanks. Thanks for the invite. And strangely enough, in a strange way, it's good to be back at Devotion. I used to be part of Devotion for about 8 years. So I used to hang out on Friday nights and chat with people and all that sort of stuff. Um, I'm part of Woody's. I've been part of Woody's for a long time, for 20 something years now. I came to Bristol and studied and stayed. But I've always been interested in and around kind of issues of justice and issues of unity. I guess I probably, when I was younger, I wasn't quite sure why I was, but then as I spent time kind of thinking about stuff and studying or reading stuff or listening to stuff online, I've kind of worked out a little bit about why some of these things are really important to me. And like one of the key things for me is like diversity isn't a subject. Like for some people, like it's a subject to talk about. It's one thing for people. For me, it's everything.
Yeah.
Diversity isn't something I get to opt out of or move on from. It's not like I can deal with that. I'll talk about that and then put that down and then do something else. Diversity, it affects the way I'm seen, the way that I walk down the street, people's reactions to me. So that's often like one of the big challenges in terms of like understanding and discussing around diversity issues, that actually for people who feel excluded or different in some way, actually it's about their entire lives. It's not just a subject or a topic.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Case. We, as part of this, we want to hear from young people who are part of our community, and we've had loads of messages from young people who have struggled with racism their whole life. And one of those people, this is anonymous, but I'm just going to read this quote and then ask maybe for some of your thoughts on the challenge and how we might deal with it. This is the quote. It's so horrible to see, but it's an issue that is so important and needs change. I've experienced the effects of white privilege and have been called some horrible things in my life, so it's very important to me. Myself and my mum just find it quite hard to know what to do in a time like this. Coast, what would you say for someone who has been the recipient of racism and who has maybe had that growing up and is really feeling that this week in particularly, maybe with everything that's going on? What would you say we can do in a time like this?
Sorry. Firstly, to you, if you're watching, and to your mum, it's really sad. I'm really, I think I grew up, I'm a lot older than most of you. Actually, that brings back memories of my own experiences, kind of growing up as a teenager. And in a lot of ways, I had wished that society had changed, that we'd kind of gone, that we'd be better by now. So I'm really sad for you. To you personally, I want to say, actually, do you know what? That's not the norm, right? The norm, like there's a book in the Bible called Revelation, and in Revelation 1, it says this. After this I looked out, and therefore there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne of God, before the Lamb. And that paints a picture of like what what is the norm, what we should be striving for, right? Actually, that paints a picture of this broad and diverse kind of community or world or environment where actually people are brilliant. Like, do you know what? You are brilliant. If people haven't understood that, that's kind of their problem, right? But you are brilliant. And that's the key thing I want you to remember. Actually, what is happening right now is that the conversational level, the awareness level of people want to kind of challenge and question some of those misunderstandings, those wrong ideas, it's higher it's been for a while. Uh, I'm old enough to remember a situation. This guy called Stephen Lawrence in the UK. So when we look at what's happening in the news and stuff, we can go, oh, it's an American thing. Actually, no, it's a British thing. It's a British issue. Stephen Lawrence was a black teenager who was killed in London. He was actually born the same year as me, so he would be the same age as me right now. But he was killed when he was 18 years old. So it's not somebody else's problem, it's our problem. So the conversational level, the conversational awareness on a global kind of like perspective, it feels like it was off the burner, but it's now on the burner. So people are aware, and as much as I really wish that that stuff didn't happen to people like yourself or people like to me, actually there's a temperature that could lead to change. There's a temperature in society right now where people are aware and want to do something. Now, the challenge within all of that is that it doesn't just die off. It's not just the latest thing, or because people are bored, or people feel like guilty or emotionally charged. Like it's got to move into change and action. And the hopeful thing for me is that the conversational awareness, the number of people who want to talk about these issues, it's higher than it's been for a while. So please, please, please hang in there. Change could be happening. And that's what makes me hopeful.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. That's really great. Thanks for sharing that. We also want to be really honest about maybe where we're at as a church and maybe where we're at as Devo. We're striving for change, but we also want to be really honest that we don't get a lot of this stuff right. So I guess my question for you along that is, you've been involved with this church for a long time. And what are some of maybe the challenges you see in maybe the church as a, maybe not just Woody's, but in the church in general right now regarding maybe inclusion and racism and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of go to what do I think should be the norm? And then I kind of track back from that. So for me, diversity is not meant to be an optional thing, because it's written in the pages of our belief and on the hands of Jesus. Like we all kind of sit underneath that. So when I think about that and I think about where we are, I guess I think a couple of things. I think one, are we where we should be? And what does that mean we need to change? That probably means work. Like no great invention, no great piece of music, no great social justice movement happened without some sort of cost. So the big question for all of us now, whether we're inside the church or outside the church, because it's a big societal kind of issue, is where are we going to dig in? Where do we kind of commit to do the work? no church is perfect,
Mm.
but we do have a perfect God. So that's what we're heading towards. We're heading towards the example that Jesus has set. We're heading towards these profound ideas of what the kingdom of God sets out before us. And I do think they're possible, but what it does require is kind of a long, hard look at where we have been,
Mm.
where we are now, and where we choose to be. And it means maybe rejuggling some priorities, setting out some clear kind of things that we can aim for, but also measure ourselves against, um, because we know where we've been, we know where we are, but we also know where we want to go to. um, Definitely, I think one of the problems with any organization or any group of people where there isn't diversity is that all the thinking, all the decision making, all the perspectives will always lean one way. So if you imagine like a supermarket trolley with a bad wheel, it's always going to lean one way unless you deliberately counter steer it.
Mm.
Yeah. So that takes a conscious um, resolve within yourself to go, right, it's going to lean that way. I'm going to counter steer it the other way. So I think, um, you know, every church will be different. I think the chance right now is for every church to take stock of where it was, where it is, and where it wants to be, and to make those conscious choices about counter steering where those natural leanings are.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Case. I guess alongside that, I've been really taken aback and convicted this week at the sort of the how much young people in particular are taking on this issue and running with it and are protesting, are challenging, and how that isn't a new thing. Young people have been aware of this issue for longer, longer than other people. You have a message for young people about how maybe to not let this be something that, as you were saying, sort of dies out, but something that carries on, and something that we pursue for longer than until we until maybe this dies out, and then maybe in 10 years time again we have another murder and it all kicks off again. Do you have any sort of
Yeah.
some advice maybe for carrying on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things I think about young people and is, well, here's a question. If the leaders aren't present, will you present yourself as a leader?
Hmm.
Now, what I mean by that is, as young people, you you will see a world that I can't see just by the natural laws of how long we averagely live. You can imagine like a world maybe 20, 30 years after I've gone.
Hmm.
So you have a perspective that's really important. Um, so if you see stuff right now, actually, what I want to really do is encourage you into pursuing that. Actually, you will see not only problems and issues, but also possibilities and solutions that I can't see.
Hmm.
Uh, one of the amazing things that often happens through kind of like movements and social justice is that young people see something and they take it on board
Hmm.
and they run with it.
Hmm.
And very often what happens is the mainstream follows,
Hmm.
right? So actually young people always take the charge forward. So
Hmm.
right now there's a real moment. It's like a balance. It could go one way, it could go the other. There's a real moment and chance and opportunity for young people to really take what they feel passionate about and really press into it, really kind of pursue it and persevere with it. So if you see injustices, like you may feel like weird about this because you don't have like the language or the grammar around how to put this, but that can be learned, that can be worked out. It's like learning any other language. Like if you learn French at school, it's all a bit awkward at a moment. And then as you practice it more, you get more efficient and proficient in kind of communicating through that. Don't worry about that. That will come as you pursue it. But if you see an injustice, if you see inequality, shout out about it, call it out, write letters, write emails, post. Don't just post stuff that kind of comes and goes. Like post about social justice issues, post about kind of diversity issues, kind of raise the conversational level even further than where it has been so far. So if you want to talk about that, then there's lots of different ways, there's lots of different things you can search about it online. But actually what I really want to do is encourage you to have a sense of your voice, and it's an important voice. Like my role, or my kind of vibe in life, is to help raise the floor level to which you stand upon. That whatever I'm doing actually propels whatever you're doing. Like you learn from my mistakes, so don't make those. But actually, if I can raise the foundation a little bit, then you can stand on that. And then somebody that follows you can stand on that. And that's how we see long-term shift and long-term change in some of the bigger problems and issues. But if you have a passion for it, like fuel it, get around some other people who have that same sort of passion, who want to see same sort of changes, and like encourage each other in that, because you have a vision and a voice that's really important and really needed within society right now.
Thank you for that, Colse. And do you have any maybe ways that where young people might be able to get involved in Woodies in particular on this issue, or churches in Bristol in general on this issue?
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to start things and you're not quite sure where they go. But if you are somebody who wants to kind of talk about issues around race and diversity, then me and some friends, like we talk about this sort of stuff at the time, but I'm really up for maybe like working with devotion specifically around this issue. So if you want to talk about stuff like that, or you have questions, then maybe feed that back to the team. And if we can maybe think about arranging something, if people are interested, I'm really happy to kind of come in on that conversation, and we'll talk about it and pursue it a bit together.
That's great. Thank you so much, Colse, for joining us and speaking into this issue. I've asked Abby to do the same. Would you mind just really quickly well, not really quickly, you can take really long if you want, just praying for us and praying for the world and the church. Is that all right?
Lord, thank you that you set a path out for us, and that's one of love and one of hope. And particularly when things are tough, when particularly things are challenging and unclear, Lord, we want to lean into that love and we want to lean into that hope, where we can have our own senses of what is a good thing to do, or our own perspectives around that. Lord, we want to lean into your wisdom. We want to ask you, from this point, where do we go? And Lord, that might require us to personally or kind of corporately, or even as a world, kind of change. But Lord, we believe that you are love, that you are good. Lord, for us, or anyone who is kind of grieving or in pain right now, we ask for your Holy Spirit to be a comforter, to be present. Lord, may we recognize and realize that you are close. Lord, if these last few kind of weeks have been something that challenges us, Lord, would you continue to provoke us? And Lord, you do that out of a sense of your love for us and for the world. Lord, would you guide us? Would you lead us? And would you love us?
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Colse. for your time and for speaking into this issue for the last however long and into the future. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thanks. Take care.
I want to finish by saying thank you to Colse for speaking to us today and for talking to us about how we can fight and be anti-racist, both in the church and in our wider society. And for you, Devo, I hope that you've enjoyed that you found it really helpful. We'll be back on again next week with another Takeover Tuesday. There are Connect groups running all this week, as well as our Friday night live. Be great to see you there. Lots of love. Bye bye.